Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the series comparing Python and Ruby syntax. In the previous video I forgot to mention how to make comments on our code. So it's actually pretty simple. In Python you just type in hash or pound and just type in whatever comment you want. You can also do the same, you can put on the side as well. So let's say side comment here, and we run that. You see that it's exactly the same in Ruby. Now, a multi-line comment or a block comment is quite different. So in Python, it's just triple single quotes to start it. So this is a block comment, and you close it the same way. In Ruby, you have to start it with equal begin and equal end, and it has to be unindented. So for example, if I did this, you see that now it's not a comment. So it has to be not indented. All right. So now let's talk about the various data types. We have integers, floats, strings, and bools for our basic data types. So let me get rid of this. And here you go. Ints and floats, they're the same in every language. As for strings, in both Python and Ruby, you can use single quotes and double quotes. And for Boolean, in Python, it's capitalized, whereas in Ruby, it's lowercase. So that's that. Now let's talk about just type conversion. So let's say we had num55. If I wanted to convert this value to an integer, it's simply int of num. And if I wanted to convert this value to a float, it's float of num. So if I take this, run in Python, we get 55 and 55.0. And if I convert this to Ruby, we get 55 and 55.0 as well. Now in Ruby, there's another way to convert, and that is integer of num, and then the other one is float of num. And if we convert this, we get the same thing. So what happens if I add a character that is not a digit? So let's say 55a and run it. We get 55, so we know this part worked, but the one after it threw an error, and then we got an argument error. So the difference between integer and 2i and float and 2f is with .2i and .2f, Ruby will scan the characters in the string and try to convert as much as possible. So if we have 55, well, it's going to be 5, then 55, and then Ruby sees that there's an a here, so that's not a digit. So it will stop and return what it already has accumulated. So it will return 55. Whereas in integer and float, instead of returning at this point, it will throw an argument error or a value error. So in Python, the argument error is a value error, and this error is it's always going to happen if you don't have a valid string that is just digits. So if I have 55a, you see that there's this value error happening here. All right. And if you wanted to convert something to a string, like let's say num is 55 an integer, it's simply string of num. And then it's in Python Ruby, it by default it does string of num. You can also just do it this way, num.toString, and it will also work. All right, so that's converting between integers, floats, and strings. What about converting to Boolean? Well, in Python, if you had, if you're trying to convert an integer or a float or a string to Boolean, if you have a 0 for an integer, 0.0 for a float, or an empty string for a string, this will always return false when you try to convert this to a Boolean. Anything else, so any negative or positive numbers or any non-empty string will always return true. So for instance, if I tried bool of, let's say 5, print bool of 0.0, and then print bool of an empty string, we should get true, false, false. So let's copy and paste this and run it. And we have true, false, false. However, so in Python, we can just convert between these values flawlessly. However, in Ruby, we can't do so. And the reason why is, well, let's see, what's the type of true and what's the type of false? So if I take this, we see that they're bool types, right? And if I did the same thing in Ruby, we see that we have two different class types. True is the true class and false is the false class. So there's not one single bool class that encapsulates both these values. And for this reason, in Ruby, you cannot convert an integer or a string to Boolean and vice versa. And this problem is not unique to Ruby. I think it also happened in Java, but it's not much to worry about when it comes to programming. So yeah, so that's the different data types and type conversions and how to make comments in Python and Ruby. All right. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.